If you were advising any of the candidates right now, and I know you're not involved in any of the campaigns, even though you support Hillary Clinton's campaign, what advice would you give a candidate about going back on his radio show?
Well, first of all, I was, am, and will continue to be a friend of Don Imus since I've been knowing him since 1992. He has profusely apologized. I watched him this morning. It's just somebody, as a friend of his, he knows that he's made a terrible error. It was almost, he was anguished this morning. He's going to do a lot of apologizing and very encouraging that he wants to apologize to these young women on that basketball team who had a magnificent achievement. But I would say if we can't, in a way, we got to reconcile this and move on. And remember, he said a really bad thing. He didn't do a really bad thing. And the life is redemptive, as Senator McCain said. And I think, looking at knowing him like I do, I think he is really, truly sorry for this.
So the answer is you think that candidates should. I know you're willing to go back on his show.
Well, I would go back on his show, but I forgive people. I'm a believer that friendship. When a friend is in trouble, that's when you run to their aid. Anybody can be Don Imus's friend when they all want to get a book promoted. What's that? Well, just like when President Clinton got into trouble. That's when the demand of friendship is. If someone asks for forgiveness, you don't give a friend that forgiveness. You don't give a person that forgiveness. And I think that Don is going out of his way. He's going on the Al Sharpton show. Is trying to get to these young women. The big issue for me is that he apologizes to young women, and he wants to do that.
And Terry, I think James was right in describing how Don Imus approached this today. He clearly seemed anguished over what he had said.
Well, I think his apology is sincere. I don't think he's a racist person. I think the remark he made is racist on its face. But I do believe that Don Imus represents a general decline in standards in American broadcasting. I think his program is designed to try and attract audiences through saying crude and outrageous things, that the basic irony of his show, the reason people are supposed to be attracted to it, is they go, hey, I didn't know someone was actually going to say that on the radio or TV. I wish we had a higher standard in general, but I wish Don Imus had a higher standard. And I do think that politicians go on that show are taking a risk, because then they're going to have to take a stand about these various outrageous things that he says.
So should they continue to go on that show?
I think they're taking a risk. And I think if you're a cultural conservative, you ought to object to the general standards of his show. Well, for example, I didn't hear or see his show on Friday, but I read in the New York Times that there was a song on his show on Friday that made a very crude reference to the Christian doctrine of resurrection as we're heading into Easter. You know, it didn't cause a huge uproar, but this is a regular sort of thing that appears on this guy's program.
I tell you what, I'm a friend of his, and I'll take all the blame for the kind of crude things they do, but give Don Imus half the credit for the literally tens of hundreds of millions of dollars he's raised. And he is a man that sometimes has a foul mouth, but he has a good heart, and I hope that people understand that about him.
I'm not at all, by the way, contesting that this is a good person or that his apology is sincere, but the level of his broadcast is low, and I think there's a general trend in our culture, especially in electronic media, for the standards to go down and down and down and down. Sometime we have to start bringing them back up. I think especially when you look at the fact that cable news stations have a limited audience. Not all 300 million people in this country are watching the cable news channels. They are, in fact, appealing to, theoretically, people who are seriously interested in the news. I think this type of program underestimates the intelligence of the potential audience it has.
Let's move on.